A $50 product is sitting on a shelf near you right now, and Temu will mail you the same kind of thing for $2 flat. This is the breakdown of the 4 hidden tricks that make that price possible and the reason that price has already started to vanish. Temu never broke the laws of economics. The company simply found 4 separate places to bury the real cost, and for a good while, it talked almost the entire system into looking the other way, which is exactly what we are about to pull apart. Start with the company because the company explains a lot of this. Temu is the shopping app run by PDD Holdings, the same parent business behind the Chinese giant Pinduoduo, which got its start back in 2015. This is no scrappy startup that stumbled onto cheap prices by accident. It is the international arm of one of the most aggressive online retail operations on the planet, and it landed in the United States in 2022, then climbed into the ranks of the most downloaded apps in the country inside a strikingly short window. The whole pitch lives right inside the name: team up, price down. And the promise behind those 3 words is blunt. The more shoppers who pile in, the cheaper everything gets. That friendly slogan, though, is only the polite version of the story, because the real version runs on supply chains, subsidies, and a border loophole that most shoppers never even knew existed.
Picture what normally happens to a $50 product before it ever reaches your hands. A factory builds it, a brand stamps its name on it and marks it up. An importer carries it into the country and marks it up again, then a distributor takes a cut, a wholesaler takes a cut, and finally, a retailer adds the markup that keeps its own lights on. By the time that product hits the shelf, you are not paying for the object at all, you are paying for the entire chain of people who touched it on the way to you. Temu's first move erases that chain completely. It runs a fully managed, factory-to-consumer model, sometimes shortened to M2C, where the factory that builds the thing connects almost directly to the person buying it. So all those middle layers and all those stacked markups simply disappear. The price you see ends up far closer to what the factory itself charges than to what a traditional retailer is forced to charge. And that single shift explains a big slice of why Temu can sit 50 to 90% below typical Western retail. Cutting out the middlemen, though, only carries you part of the way down. To reach $2, you need something far more drastic, a company willing to lose money on purpose. Here is the part that sounds like a billing error, but absolutely is not. According to reporting by Wired, Temu was bleeding roughly $30 on every single order it shipped. And that figure is worth sitting with for a second because it is not a thin margin, it is an outright loss on each box. None of that is a glitch, and none of it is generosity. It is customer acquisition running at industrial scale. The $2 item in your cart is not really the product. It is an advertisement that Temu paid for so that you would download the app, place an order, feel that little jolt of disbelief at the price, and then come back to do it all over again. Most companies buy your attention with billboards and commercials, while Temu buys your attention by swallowing the cost of the product itself, which means the package on your doorstep is the marketing budget. A normal business would collapse losing $30 an order, but Temu is not a normal business. It leans on a parent company with pockets deep enough to treat those losses as an investment in market share. The bet is straightforward. Buy enough customers cheaply enough today, and the math is supposed to work out tomorrow.
The third place the cost hid is one almost no shopper ever laid eyes on, and it may be the most important of the 4. For years, a rule inside US trade law called de minimis let any package valued under $800 enter the country duty-free, with barely any inspection, on the logic that tiny, low-value shipments were not worth the government's time to tax or examine. Look at Temu's model again through that lens. Instead of importing one enormous container and paying tariffs on the whole load the way a traditional retailer does, Temu floods the system with countless tiny individual parcels shipped straight from China to your front door. And because each one sits comfortably under that $800 line, each one slides across the border duty-free, while skipping the tariffs a large importer would normally owe. It worked as a quiet superpower. The entire shipping strategy of small parcels going direct to consumers was never just about convenience. It was engineered to thread that exact loophole. And a fourth force was humming away in the background the whole time. Underneath everything sits the Chinese manufacturing base itself, and it carries an enormous amount of overcapacity, meaning far more factories are producing far more goods than the market can actually absorb. When supply wildly outruns demand, prices get crushed right at the source, long before a single item is boxed up. So the factory floor already behaves like a discount engine before Temu lifts a finger. Shipping piles on the next advantage. Sending a small package across the entire planet has stayed startlingly cheap thanks to subsidized logistics. Cheap enough that flying a $2 trinket halfway around the world somehow still pencils out. Stack all four forces on top of each other, and the picture snaps into focus. Factory direct pricing with no middlemen, a roughly $30 subsidy baked into every order, a border loophole waving the packages through tax-free, and a manufacturing and shipping machine built to overproduce and undercharge. That is the recipe, and that is how 50 turns into 2. Every one of those four tricks, though, carries a cost that never shows up anywhere on your receipt. When the price is the whole pitch, the product usually delivers exactly what a $2 product should deliver, and quality becomes the trade you quietly agree to, even when the listing photo hints at something far nicer. The app itself is not built to help you shop. It is built to keep you shopping, with spinning wheels, countdown timers, team-up deals, and that nagging sense that walking away means losing out. All of it gamified to turn a quick purchase into a standing habit. A heavier line of criticism cuts deeper than quality. A U.S. congressional investigation raised serious concerns about forced labor inside the supply chains feeding platforms like Temu, and the company has faced those concerns alongside broader questions about data and oversight. The argument from critics lands hard. The cheapness was never actually free. It was simply billed to someone else, to workers, to quality, and to the systems the low price quietly leans on. That sets up the twist the 50 for 2 story almost always leaves out. None of those four tricks was ever permanent, and the one holding up the most weight, that border loophole, has been closing fast. During 2025, the United States moved to shut down the de minimis exemption through executive action, written into Executive Orders 14,256 and 14,324, which ended the duty-free treatment Temu's entire model leaned on. And the moment the border stopped being free, the underlying math shifted. Temu has already started adjusting. Rather than flying every individual parcel out of China, the company began pushing toward local fulfillment, stocking goods inside the United States and selling from there. A quieter and far less glamorous model than the one that made it famous. The subsidies that kept $30 losses survivable could never run forever, and the loophole doing so much invisible work is no longer sitting there to lean on. The honest answer to how Temu sells a $50 product for $2 is that it never really does, not in the way it looks. It sells you a $2 product whose true cost was scattered across 4 hidden places: a factory stripped of middlemen, a company willing to lose money to win you over, a border that waved the package straight through, and a manufacturing system built to overproduce. The price was always real, yet it was never only a price. It was a strategy wearing the costume of a bargain. Now that the loopholes are closing and the subsidies are thinning out, the real question is no longer how Temu sold a $50 product for $2. It is whether the company can keep pulling it off at all. Thanks for watching, and if this changed the way you look at that next $2 add to cart, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.